I want to make the next big three. I want to give back to the anime and manga community that's been such a big part of my life. I have a unique story, and I know that other people will enjoy this too. These last few months, we've spoken to so many aspiring mangakas wanting to get their story out there. We've met artists across the globe, and we've heard different reasons why you want to create your manga. And we'll be honest, we've realized that there are quite a few aspiring mangakas out there who feel lost and confused in their journey. I'm not just talking about how do I improve my art skills or how do I do storyboarding type of confusion. I'm talking about why is creating my own manga such a big deal for me? Why is this so important that I have to make it a reality?
なるほど。わからん。
Many of you might not understand your deep-rooted why, and today I want to challenge you to explore that. It's crucial that you spend time to self-reflect and truly ask yourself what you want out of your artistic journey. When things get rough, your why will help you get through all the sacrifice, the sleepless nights, the blood, sweat, and tears. If you're feeling stuck, confused, and unsure about your manga journey right now, then make sure to stick around until the end. You might just find your sense of purpose, fall in love again with your manga, and maybe even realize you actually want something totally different for yourself. And that's okay. In case you're 100% sure that you want to pursue your manga journey, but you don't know how to go about it, you don't understand the process, you want feedback and guidance from mentors, you want a clear path laid out with structure and accountability, then we invite you to book a consultation call with us and see if you'd be a good fit to be a founding member of our online one-shot manga drawing program. We'll teach you everything you need to know about drawing, inking, character design, backgrounds, perspective, writing, paneling, storyboarding, and all the skills you need to create a compelling one-shot. You'll be working with pro mangakas live during Zoom sessions. You'll be part of an amazing community of aspiring mangakas just like you, and you'll have student success coaches encouraging you and supporting you to overcome any hurdles and make sure you stay on track to reaching your goals. So make sure to fill out the application form properly. Think you have what it takes? You can book a consultation call with us through the link in the description. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what's my ultimate goal? When you have the end in mind, it's easier for you to make decisions that would help you get closer to your goal. Imagine going into a store. If you know what you want, you can find a product or ask the staff where it is, check out, and you're done. But when you don't know what you want, you get distracted by all the interesting items in the store, and sometimes you yourself get confused. It's okay to take time to think, research, and further understand what your ultimate goal is. It's a big decision. You don't have to arrive at an answer all in one day. But when you never even bother to ask yourself what you actually want in the end, everything just seems vague. And you might end up half-assing a lot of things without actually moving forward in any of them. For example, we have people tell us that they want to learn how to make a manga and then study animation because, they want to make an anime out of their story. If you feel this way, then I'd like to clarify a few things. First of all, have you ever heard of a mangaka animating their own manga? Like them literally drawing the frames themselves? Not really, right? They're not there doing the grunt work for their own animation. When mangakas get their stories adapted into an anime, in most instances, they're not even involved in the production. Masashi Kishimoto was not in charge of creating all those filler episodes in the Naruto anime. That was all the animation studio. Kishimoto sensei was busy producing more chapters for the manga, so the anime would have more source material to work with, and we could finally move forward with the plot. When mangakas do get involved in their own anime, they usually take on the role of writer or producer or director to make sure they maintain the quality and continuity of their story. Eiichiro Oda, for example, the creator of One Piece, has been consistently involved with the One Piece films since 2009. He acted as the producer for many of them and even wrote the story for One Piece film Strong World. Oda-sensei was most involved in One Piece film Red that was released in 2022. He was the executive producer, character designer, and also the script reviewer of the film. Oda sensei didn't have to study animation for these opportunities. In fact, One Piece was popular enough as a manga that companies wanted to work with him to create an anime. He could have chosen not to be involved in the adaptations, just like Kishimoto sensei, but as the creator, he had a vision for his story and his characters, and he wanted to make sure that the anime would not disappoint. We're sharing this with you because learning to create manga is already such a big challenge in itself. And wanting to create your own anime on top of that? These are two totally different beasts, and it would be impossible to do it alone. So we suggest you pick your main storytelling medium and master that. Do you want to create a manga? Do you want to tell your story through animation, through a graphic novel, a Western comic? Like, these are all amazing forms of storytelling. So if you feel like it has to be a manga, then why? What is it about manga that attracts you to it? Is this manga gonna be a passion project, a hobby? Or is this something that you want to eventually monetize and make a career out of? Whatever you choose, you need to find a strong sense of conviction so you can see this through until the end. Ask yourself this next question. Why is getting my manga out there so important to me? Do you know the father of manga? His name is Osamu Tezuka, and he's super famous for titles like Astro Boy and Blackjack. He was born in 1928, and he grew up during World War II. You can just imagine, he's gone through some pretty dark times. He experienced Japan during the aftermath of war. The economy was unstable. The country was recovering from such great loss and destruction. It was very different from the Japan that we know today. Osamu Tezuka's professional debut as a mangaka was at 17 years old after World War II. He first published Diary of Machan in early 1946. During this time, the famous manga style we're all familiar with still did not exist. Japanese comics were very similar to that of Western comics. They were all told in a single viewpoint, the audience's perspective. Think of classic comics like Garfield and Snoopy. All panels use more or less the same camera angle, right? Japanese comics followed the same layout. I mean, even the art style were still quite similar at that time. Tezuka sensei was fascinated by American comics and Western movies, especially Disney animated films. It was said that he watched Snow White more than 50 times and Bambi more than 80 times. This seeming obsession over Western films paid off though. Tezuka sensei borrowed a lot of cinematography techniques from movies and incorporated it into his manga. He put in pans, close-ups, zooms, and other techniques that made his manga much more dramatic. This was revolutionary. Tezuka sensei also created the long-form concept of story manga. He's the reason why we can enjoy multi-chapter manga titles today. These are just some of Tezuka sensei's contributions to manga and overall Japanese pop culture. He didn't do it to be rich or famous. Actually, he was on his way to become a doctor but gave up the more lucrative and respected medical field to work as a cartoonist. It was a difficult decision, but Tezuka sensei saw that manga could become a medium to help people care for the world. He created about 150,000 manga pages for 700 manga titles during his lifetime. Creating manga was Osamu Tezuka's life purpose. He had a message he wanted to share with the world. In the year before he passed, he said this in an interview. "My manga have a wide variety of themes. They are a tribute to life. They are anti-war and they are anti-nuclear. And they advocate the preservation of nature. But ultimately, they are all one thing. They are the following. Appeal to young readers to think objectively about this fragile earth. When you grow up, don't forget to look at both Earth and mankind objectively, and always think about what it means to be human." Now, I want you to think about your manga journey for me. Why is getting your story out there so important to you? Are there people you want to inspire? Is there a message you want to convey? Why does it have to be you to convey this message? Do you believe this is part of your life's purpose? Would creating your manga give you a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment? I'll tell you now, If you're only chasing after fame or money or because you think anime and manga is popular and trending, then I don't think you'll be able to go very far. When your heart truly isn't into it, the journey becomes much, much harder. But if you know deep inside that creating your manga is something that you have to do, you believe this is the medium for you to tell your story, to be heard, to be seen, to finally be recognized, then I encourage you to go for it. And I know many of you have already been on this journey for many, many years, sometimes even decades. So if creating your manga is like an unaccomplished dream that you just need to do, ask yourself this: what's stopping me from making this happen? Is it procrastination? Is it the lack of knowledge? Or is it actually your fear and insecurities? We've had quite a few aspiring mangakas tell us that they feel stuck in a never-ending cycle. They get discouraged and then they stop and then they find the motivation again and try one more time, only to find themselves stuck in another rut a little later. And this just goes on in a loop. When is it ever going to end? Let me tell you this: you can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results. Only a crazy person would do that. And I'm sure you're not crazy. So whatever you're doing right now, the books you're reading, the YouTube videos you're watching, all these resources you're consuming, what's not working about them? Even though you've been going at it for years, maybe even decades, why do you think there's barely any progress? Is it because you're trying to do this alone and you need someone to help keep you accountable? You feel like you actually need feedback and you need someone to look over your work? I mean, if that's the problem, then you gotta find some friends or a mentor or a community of like-minded mangakas to help you out, right? You need to find that kind of support. Did you know that the godfather of manga, Osamu Tezuka, actually lived in a share house with other famous mangakas? This was before they all became household names. Tezuka Sensei lived with Doraemon creator Fujiko Fujio and Kamen Rider creator Shotaro Ishinomori, to name a few. I know these titles are not as famous in the West, and if you're from a younger generation, maybe you've never even heard of them. But in Japan, Doraemon and Kamen Rider are like famous cultural icons. All these young, aspiring mangakas lived in an apartment building called Tokiwaso in the 1950s to 1960s. It was 2 stories high, made out of wood, and really nothing very fancy. Each mangaka would have their own small room, they had a communal kitchen, a couple of restrooms, but they didn't even have a place to shower. So everyone would have to go out to a public bath every day. However, the beauty about being surrounded by like-minded individuals is that you could feed off of each other's energy, bounce around ideas, encourage one another, and challenge each other to be the best that you can be. That's what happened in Tokiwaso. Mangakas would help each other meet their deadlines, they'd be assistants to their own peers. Tokiwaso eventually earned the nickname Manga Manor, and a lot of young mangakas wanted to live there. Unfortunately, the original Tokiwaso building was demolished in 1982. The structure just became too old. Luckily, with the help of supporters, they were able to recreate it as an official manga museum, and it opened in March 2020. If you visit Japan, you can personally go check it out in Toshima City. Right now, you might be thinking though, why is she talking about this manga share house? Nothing like this exists in my country. Yes, that's true, but we're now in the age of the internet and technology. You don't have to find a Tokiwaso in your area to find like-minded aspiring mangakas. There's Discord servers, Facebook groups, this YouTube channel right here. I mean, you can try dropping a comment and you might be able to find your people. You never know. One thing we've learned from speaking with our 300-ish students is that having the right support can make all the difference. When you're surrounded by people who constantly tell you,
"You're wasting your time. You have no talent. There's no money in art. Like, what are you doing? Anime is not real art. You're not a real artist."
then a part of you starts to believe it. And your fear of failure, it just grows. You start to think,
What if they're right all along? What if I'm actually not cut out for this? What if I actually can't make it?
and that fear paralyzes you from taking action. Sometimes people tell me their problem is laziness. It's procrastination. But honestly, I don't believe that. I think deep inside, you're just scared that even if you put in the work, you still won't succeed. But you know what's even worse? Not trying and regretting it for the rest of your life, thinking about all the what ifs. There's one interesting pattern with some people I've talked to. Whenever I ask them, why take your manga more seriously now? Was there a defining moment that made you want to jump all in? Quite a few people would tell me that they just realized they're not happy. Through the decades, everyone else had just dictated what their life should look like. It was time that they started living for themselves. And their manga was something that they knew would bring them so much joy. They just had to do it. I see this choice of pursuing their manga as an act of empowerment. They're finally reclaiming their sense of identity as an artist, as a creator. If you resound with this and you feel like you're not surrounded by the right people, then I want to encourage you to change your environment. Find new friends that would actually support you. When you're around fellow mangakas that encourage you, that challenge you, that inspire you, and you see yourself grow and you actually hear people telling you that you have the potential, we're here to support, you got this, then you'll start to believe that. You'll feel more confident. And that's how you start making solid progress towards your manga goal while actually feeling good about it. The last question you want to ask yourself is, what's my timeline? I know some of you don't want to pressure yourselves. Everything will happen in its time, and I totally get it. They're just things that are sometimes out of your control. But I also know that when you don't have a timeline or assign some kind of deadline for yourself, stuff just doesn't get done. Have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? This concept applies to different tasks that we do. It says that the more time we have to do something, the more time it will take us to finish it. For example, if your editor gives you 1 week to come up with a storyboard, you'll probably use up that whole week. Maybe you'd even get distracted in between, watch an anime, play games, scroll through social media. You might slowly create your storyboard across the week, spending a few hours a day on it. Or you might end up cramming everything a day before. But if your editor only gave you 1 day to finish this in the first place, you'll probably finish it all in 1 day. All your focus would just be on your storyboard. No games, no socials, no distractions. You end up being more efficient with your time. That's how Parkinson's law works. When you tell yourself, oh, I have my whole life to create my manga, I'm still young, I have time, then you're probably gonna end up being distracted, maybe even working on things that aren't even related to your art goals in the first place. Then 10, 20, 30 years later, it just hits you. You're not even close to your manga goals. Where did all those years go? I actually spoke with a few people who had this realization when they lost people who were important to them. They realized that life is finite. Life is short. You never know when it's gonna be your time. So why waste it feeling miserable doing something you don't enjoy? When you create a timeline for yourself, you have to make sure that you're realistic about it. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you won't be able to master manga creation in 1 day either. Not in 1 week, not in 1 month, not even in 1 year. This is gonna be a marathon, not a sprint. What helps is breaking your timeline down into mini goals in between. For example, if your ultimate goal is to go pro, then your mini goals could be learning how to draw backgrounds, learning how to write interesting stories, learning how to properly storyboard your ideas, or creating your first one-shot manga. You can decide how much time you dedicate to these mini goals. Is it gonna be a month, 6 months, 1 year? I'm sure you also have other priorities like family and work or school. You may even encounter unexpected roadblocks along the way like health emergencies. You need to adjust your timeline and get back in focus so you can stay on track and not get completely derailed. I've seen people finish 2 to 3 pages of their manga and then never pick it up again until a few years later. If you're serious about becoming a pro, our mentor, pro Japanese mangaka Naoyazawa, actually recommends creating at least one one-shot manga per year. It doesn't matter whether you're a student or working or doing other stuff in between. If you're serious about making it in the industry, you gotta finish at least one shot every year. I hope you can find some time to take yourself out on a date and ask yourself these questions. We've spoken with hundreds of aspiring artists and mangakas over the last 2 years, and these questions have helped them find clarity and direction. Hopefully, they help you too. If you find yourself struggling to get your manga out there right now and you're looking for an amazing community of fellow aspiring mangakas and pro mangaka mentors to guide you, encourage you, and support you on your manga journey, then we invite you to apply to our one-shot manga drawing program and hop on a consultation call with us. Again, we only have 1 slot left. The link to book a call is in the description. We can't wait to hear from you. In the meantime, you can watch this video on the #1 beginner mangaka mistake and make sure you start your manga journey on the right path.